Welcome to the 38th episode of ML Backstage. My name is Mars Luna.
And I'm Ethan.
And we're introducing this podcast straight from the sixth dimension. This is a music commentary podcast hosted by just Joshua Luna today. Holokahiki Toves is at the gym trying to become Ikaika, and Kainalu is at work. But Joshua said this is the only day he can go, so it's his fault. Anyway, I'm excited that we get to talk about the latest Mars Luna single, Orion, the great hunter in the sky. Earthlings, grab your popcorn and let's get started. Back to planet Earth we go!
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the ML Backstage podcast. My name is Joshua Luna, and this is a solo episode today. I'm normally joined by my co-host, Holokahiki Toves and Kainalu Kamai, but they are not here today because Kainalu Kamai he's at work. He told me as much yesterday that he was going to be working, and Holokahiki Toves is not here today because he's actually at the gym right now. He actually just posted a video of his journey, his gym progress, all that kind of stuff. He is on a journey to become all gains Ikaika, and he actually just posted a YouTube video on his channel documenting his all core exercises. So go check that out on his YouTube at Holokahiki Toves. Both of those dudes are my best friends, and they're my photographers, videographers for my music project that I've been working on, which is the Cosmic Prince and the Space Alien Singer and the Czar of the Cosmos of the Sixth Dimension, Mars Luna. You know what I'm saying? I've been at this for about, I would say, 2016, so about 7.5 years, close to 8. And I've been doing this podcast for about 3 years, and it's trippy how time flies by so fast, and I wish time could slow down just a little bit, but that's just not how God works. So we're here today, or I'm here today, we're here today to talk about the latest Mars Luna single, Orion. We're gonna get to that in just a moment, but before I get to that, I just want to say that I'm currently on a couple hours of sleep. Don't mind my voice. It was just a little cooked today. It was a fun day at the office this morning. Got to work at 5. Got to prepare Sunday service, and yeah, like my voice is a little hoarse, so please excuse me. So please forgive me for all the times I may clear my throat and stuff like that. But on that, I'm very excited to be here with y'all. I I've been yeah, I've been meandering for a little bit too long now. But before we go about Orion, I want to give y'all some updates on some music that's coming up and some other things that is coming up. Got a lot coming up in the next 2 weeks. So on Wednesday uh I have a performance masterclass appointment at a studio where I'm going to be performing in front of a bunch of kids who want to do music one day, and they're going to ask some questions, do some Q&A, I give a little performance. And the next day, on Thursday, I have the next Mars Luna show at Taverna Costera for the homegirl Ronnie Wilder, who I performed with at the Uncommons last month. I'm performing and opening up for her as she celebrates her latest single called Houseplants. And it's funny because her single was actually released on the same day as Orion. So I'm kind of celebrating both things at once. With that, if you are 21 and up and you are 21 and up, excuse me, then and if you are free in Vegas on Thursday night, pull up. I'm saying it's $10 pre-sale, $15 at the door. You know what I'm saying? It's gonna be a good time, and we're gonna be surrounded by a lot of cacti. And the summer melodies at the Uncommons. I wanted to kick off last month, and I'm gonna be doing the official summer melodies back-to-back days at the Uncommons on June 7th and 8th. I'm going to be performing the entire catalog. So all of the Cosmic Chronicles, everything from the albums. So everything from Lost in Space, everything from Dark Matter, everything from New Orbit, and everything from the next Mars Luna album that's coming out next year. And I'm going to give a little preview of the Summer Melody show at the Taverna show. I'm gonna play one song from each project, whereas like it's all leading up to it. You know what I'm saying? It's all leading up to it. And on the 11th of June, I'll be singing the national anthem at the Las Vegas Aviators game. That's right. I've been holding on to that for a couple months now, and I'm excited that it's just right around the corner. You know what I'm saying? And it should be a lot of fun. About to throw it down for America one time. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, let's get to Orion. Orion was basically an experimental track. It was basically an attempt of, going back to those spiritual undertones that I did with some of my earlier songs with like Drift and and stuff like that. I was trying to formulate a song based off of the Orion Logic Pro drum kit, and I kind of structured the whole song around that. So it was a pretty cool little experiment, and I was kind of just trying to formulate some verses and stuff along with it, and I had a little speaking part where I kind of just basically recited Matthew 5 verses 14 through 16, talking about that we are the light of the world, city on the hill that cannot be hidden. That verse, as well as shout out to nobigdyl, his song Orion on his project Solar that dropped like 5 years ago or something like that. That was like a big reference that I had, and Orion was essentially an experiment. And again, I feel like it's kind of the centerpiece of this Yeet era that I've been on, where I'm kind of just clearing space from my computer and my hard drive, and you just kind of putting stuff out there to make room for new things. You know what I'm saying? And and that's basically the breakdown of Orion. This episode is a little bit more informative and a little bit more, I wouldn't say educational, but more so like connecting the dots. You know what I'm saying? Because Orion was originally, it's based off of the Greek hunter, right? The hunter in the sky. And Orion is mentioned in a lot of different places. So Orion is basically it's a constellation that's visible from most parts of the world. You can very much see it. It's one of the 88 modern constellations, and it is named for a hunter in Greek mythology. And you've also might have heard the saying Orion's belt, which is the stars Betelgeuse, Rigel, and you know what I'm saying? And well, no, hold up. So hold up, I'm sorry. Betelgeuse and Orion, no, not Betelgeuse and Orion. Betelgeuse and Rigel are both stars in the constellation Orion. But you might have heard of Orion's belt featuring the three stars. I'm trying to pronounce the names. I have the names in front of me, so please forgive me if I butcher it. It's Alnitak, Alnilam, and Mintaka, which are blue supergiant stars with fainter companions. But I'm gonna do a little foreshadow here for Betelgeuse and Rigel, and I'll get to those in the future, and you'll see why. But it was originally named it was a constellation that was named after a hunter in Greek mythology. And there's actually been uh been a few times that Orion was actually mentioned in the Bible. That's why I kind of mentioned, Matthew 5:14 at the end, where we're talking about, you're the light of the world, a city on a hill that cannot be hidden. You know what I'm saying? And Orion is this super bright constellation, filled with like super bright stars and all that kind of stuff. And it's so in the Bible, um it Orion is mentioned 3 times. So in Job 38:31, the New International Version says, "Can you bind the chains of the Pleiades? Can you loosen Orion's belt?" And Amos 5:8 says in the NIV, the New International Version, says, "He who made the Pleiades and Orion, who turns midnight into dawn and darkens day into night, who calls for the waters of the sea and pours them out over the face of the land. The Lord is his name." And Job 9:9 says, "He is the maker of the Bear and Orion, the Pleiades, and the constellations of the south." I find it interesting that the constellation Orion is in the Bible a couple times, because uh my boss actually preached a sermon today. He made a little reference about like how um science is meant to, you know, as is presented as evidence of, further of proof that God is real, instead of like, culture clashing the two against each other. And we talk about like how, or some people talk about like how the universe is like a deity, but the universe is not a deity. The universe is, it is what it is. The universe is not a force, it's not a being, it's not a deity. The universe is the space that we live in, and God is the one who created all of it. If you can go back to the book of Genesis, all the way back in the beginning, um, God created the heaven and the earth. He created Adam and Eve. He created all the animals, you know what I'm saying? And all that kind of stuff. It all ties back really to the beginning. And and my boss also said that there's no Big Bang, you know, there's no like evolutionary evolutionary aspect, to how the world was made. It was actually intelligent design, and the Bible acknowledges it. It acknowledges those things. And you know, I'm I'm not here to really I'm not here to really push a certain worldview on uh view on you. If you can, believe whatever you want. But it's just interesting that, that science actually supports creation, and it doesn't, go against each other. Um, but leaning more into the actual constellation part of Orion. Orion, um, Orion's two brightest stars are Rigel and Betelgeuse. Um, it is, you know, it is Orion hosts the radiance of the annual Oranids, the strongest meteor shower associated with Halley's Comet, and the Orion Nebula, one of the strongest nebula in the sky. Um, it's the Orion Nebula is a diffuse nebula situated in the Milky Way, being south of the Orion's belt in the constellation of Orion, and it is known as the middle star in the sword of Orion. And um and if we're going into um in Greek mythology, Orion was a giant huntsman whom Zeus, or maybe Artemis, placed among the stars as the constellation of Orion. And it Orion is featured in Greek literature as the great hunter in Homer's epic The Odyssey, where Odysseus sees his shade in the underworld. It's a lot of everything kind of ties in together with Orion, which is fascinating to me. And I honestly need to dig into this a little more. But Orion served several roles in Greek culture, and the story of the adventures of Orion is the hunter. He is the one for which there's the most evidence. Um, he is the personification of the constellation of the same name. He was venerated as a hero. And 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 Orion's brightest stars, Betelgeuse and Rigel, are some of the brightest stars in the sky. And well, actually, Betelgeuse is more of a fading star, but everything kind of ties in together. And based all to tie it back into the song, Orion was basically an experiment to kind of like show, not homage, but like, to tie into the whole cosmic chronicles, and to tie into, the cosmic aspect of, what I do with music and stuff like that. And I want to talk about um Orion, the pictures for Orion. So the little photo shoot for Orion was actually not a photo shoot for Orion. It was actually a photo shoot for a different song. It was for the villain, actually. We took those pictures back in like 2017, 2018, around there. Um, and it was really dark that day, but the lights were kind of illuminating in the suburbs of Milani. And it was one of those things where we kind of just made the most out of whatever the situation was. And it was originally supposed to be part of the villain music video, which never actually happened. And it's I was just able to find a good use for it. So shout out to Holokahiki, shout out to Kainalu, you know what I'm saying? And yeah. Um before I head into the part of uh next part of this podcast, um I've had I've had a can of Celsius as the unofficial sponsor for the ML Backstage podcast, and this podcast episode is no different. So the ML Backstage podcast is unofficially sponsored by the Celsius energy drink, and this month's flavor is, hold up, the Oasis Vibe, which is a sparkling prickly pear lime edition. And I have the Oasis because currently in Las Vegas, and we're getting to that part of the year where it's mad hot. You know what I'm saying? We're reaching high 90s, 100, and a good can of Celsius will freshen you up. You know what I'm saying? Hmm. Pear and lime is an interesting combo. Um, you know, I'm drinking this because I'm operating on a few hours of sleep, and I woke up at 5 o'clock this morning to get to work, and then got home about 12, and then now I'm doing this podcast for y'all because this was actually the only day that I could do it, and Celsius is giving me the power to get through this, and I recommend you try every flavor. You know, if you're into you know, fitness, energy drinks and stuff like that, you know what I'm saying? Essential energy, accelerates metabolism, burns body fat. Highly recommend. It sustains me throughout the day, and Celsius has never let me down. It doesn't give me jitters. It doesn't it doesn't get me all wired. It's this it's always good stuff. Always recommend. So get your Celsius at your local Target, Walmart, gas station, all the things. So shout out to Celsius for being the unofficial sponsor of the ML Backstage podcast. And we'll get to the next topic. So before I get to the questions, um, I want to talk about. I want to touch on um, the Kendrick and Drake beef, and J. Cole if you want to include him in there. But because one of the key, basically the course of Orion is lecture light shine, and while this beef between Kendrick and Drake, you know, swept through the culture for about the last 2 weeks or so. I'll probably say it was entertaining, and I got caught up in it for a while. But I would say at the end it got nasty, and it became a whole thing about it. They were trying to tear each other down uh, instead of uplifting each other and encouraging each other and stuff like that. And there was some real oof. Yeah, it was some real, like, there were some allegations in there. But I want to go through the whole, the track by track beef real quick. So on March 22nd, 2024, Kendrick was featured on Metro Boomin's Like That with Future, where Kendrick dismisses himself being dismisses the notion that he's in the big three with Drake and J. Cole, and he said it was just Big Me, and and then Drake responds, push-ups, you know, and Drake says that you ain't no big three. SZA got you wiped down. SZA got you wiped down. Travis got you wiped down. Savage got you wiped down. Like your label boy in a scope right now. It's and it so that happened a couple, like 2 weeks later, 2 weeks after Like That, push-ups came out, and then Drake dropped another one um about a week later called the Tailor Made Freestyle, um which he used AI, voices of Tupac and Snoop Dogg to go after him. He earned a cease and desist from uh Pac's estate, and so that was interesting. Um, and this is when things started to go crazy. About good 1.5 weeks later, Euphoria dropped, and Kendrick basically eviscerated him at this point, right? Like, he attacked Drake's parenting, rumored plastic surgery, and his rap abilities. And then and he talked about, he called out Drake's use of AI and all that kind of stuff. And then he dropped 616 in LA about a couple days after that. And then he just continued to make fun of Drake for using times and locations in his song. Um, and you know, and then Drake dropped Family Matters. I remember this day because this was my mom's birthday, and a lot of stuff happened on May 3rd. And Drake responded with Family Matters, and in he suggested that like that not Drake, that Kendrick's child was actually fathered by his manager, Dave Free, and talked about Kendrick's relationship with his fiance, and he alluded to some infidelity and abuse allegations and all that kind of stuff. And then Meet the Grams, that's the next day, uh I is when Kendrick just went off here and talked about, kind of gave a I guess a psychoanalysis of of Drake's family, basically, and talking to his son from the top, and it and implying that Drake has a hidden daughter and all that kind of stuff. And then and then not that much time later, actually, it's actually the same day, Not Like Us dropped, where where the album cover is actually crazy, and talking about um Not Like Us, talks about um Drake with the lyrics, like talking about, like, oh, how do I how do I go about this, like, talking about minors, you know what I'm saying? Like Drake, yeah, I don't know why I went down that path, but anyway, like, it got messy, but and Drake ended it with The Heart Part 6. And um it's kind of a play on uh Kendrick's The Heart series and all that kind of stuff. And then Drake conceded shortly after. But um but talking about or but talking about, like, how I guess the last thing that the world needed was for more tearing down of one another, you know what I'm saying? And, like, it got really messed up at the end with the allegations. But well, as far as I know, it's done. And there were some memorable moments. From a lyrical standpoint, I feel like Kendrick eviscerated Drake, but that's not important. You know what I'm saying? Feel like Drake is I feel like Drake is he's an actor playing the role of a rapper, and he plays that part really, really well. There are some songs from Drake uh, that I that I liked from his older catalog. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, if the allegations are true, then it's like, ugh, then yeah, it's rough. It's rough out here. But um, I included that beef to segue into the question. So at the end of every ML Backstage podcast, I consider this part to be the meat of the podcast. With every ML Backstage podcast episode, I usually have a question or two that ties into the theme of the album or the single or the EP, um, that we're talking about in the specific episode. Since we're talking about Orion and we're talking about letting your light shine, And in this hip hop beef where they're talking about tearing each other down, they're tearing each other down. Um, and and like the ML Backstage podcast is a podcast about the just the cosmic chronicles of Mars Luna and my discography, and just going over the themes of each project and single and EP and all that kind of stuff. Today's question is, how can we be a light in the world around us? And shout out to Kainalu, because I sent the boys these questions. Uh I sent the boys these questions like yesterday or the other day, and Kainalu actually responded responded to this question by saying, "If you're a pyro like me, just play with fire." Okay. But he wanted to say hi and get his word in, but I'll probably say, like, we can be a light in the world around us in so many ways, right? We can find ways to give back to the community, give back to, yeah, um helping out our our families and stuff like that, and taking care of our families and stuff like that, and also um uh also just being selfless and being kind, and being considerate to everyone that you come across. um I would also go more inward, and be more like, be more like um dang, I really just blanked out. um can be a light in the world around us by just oh um I mean, it can be a light in the world around us through really, um indulging in uplifting conversations. You know what I'm saying? And encouraging conversations, and trying to see the best in people instead of seeing the worst in people. And for me, that's a struggle because, like, I'm not really so much a pessimist. I try not to be a pessimist, but I'm more so pragmatic. You know what I mean? And, like, um I'd probably be more like, yeah, just be uplifting, um and see the best in people, encourage people, and uh do great work in the community, and give back, and let your light shine. You know what I'm saying? Instead of uh dwelling in the darkness. You feel me? Um and I really just blanked out, and I apologize. But yeah, that's kind of the basis of that question for me. And I'll probably end up uh, having additional thoughts after I finish this episode, and that's gonna really bug me. But being a light in the world around us is actually a pretty simple concept if you toss your ego aside, and you genuinely care about people, care about your family, care about your loved ones. Um, and do the right thing, you know what I'm saying? And doing what's right for yourself and the people around you. So, um, dang, just want to say I'm uh, sorry for kind of, saying, kind of blanking out. I have, I have not, slept all that much, and after I edit this episode, I'm probably gonna sleep. But once again, I just want to thank you so much. If you've made it to the end of this episode, um, it was kind of a handful to get through, but I appreciate y'all tuning in. I appreciate y'all listening to Mars Luna, and got more music coming this year. And hope you stream Orion, stream Constellations, One of a Kind, New Orbit, and all the releases that from the past several months. And there's more coming. There's more coming, and I'm just trying to have fun with it right now and make the most out of the season and make the most out of this yeet era that I'm in right now. And just trying to have fun. And once again, shout out to Celsius for being the unofficial sponsor of the ML Backstage podcast. It's the Oasis vibe, desert vibe, because it's 100 degrees outside in Las Vegas, Nevada. And stay tuned for the next episode. I'm going to do my best to get a special guest on for next month's episode. But until then, continue to stream Orion. If you're in Vegas, come to the Houseplant show at Taverna and save the dates for the Uncommon show on June 7th and June 8th. I'll be playing all of the Cosmic Chronicles, and I'll be in character throughout the whole thing, and it's going to be fun. And I would love to see you there, and Mars Luna would love to see you there too. So, as always, thank you for listening and watching to this Thank you for listening and watching this episode. Listening to, my goodness. Listen to, and thank you for listening to and watching the ML Backstage podcast. I'm getting my words all tied up today. I really need to get to sleep. And as Mars Luna always likes to say, embrace your odyssey and embrace the strange. See you guys next month. Shoots.
Wow, Joshua's out here getting cooked. Ha! We should never let him run a podcast by himself anymore, Ethan.
Without him, there's no episode, so...
Oh well. Anyway, I hope you all enjoyed this episode of the ML Backstage podcast. If you liked what you heard, follow us on Spotify and Anchor, and subscribe to us on Apple and YouTube at ML Backstage. You can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at It's Mars Luna. You can find all my music on Spotify and Apple Music, and on my website at itsmarsluna.com. Keep on streaming Orion. Next month, we'll have a special guest, so be on the lookout for that. Bye!